Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Welcome to today's reading from Gauranga, the golden incarnation of divine love by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami. We are reading from section 2 of the book, which is Navadvipa and Youth Pastime. So let's begin our reading. We were reading yesterday that Devanand Pandit, he became a devotee of Lord. He was the one who would give class on Bhagavatam in Mayapur, in Navadvipa. When Lord Chaitanya saw Devanand Pandit on the road, he chastised him, saying, "What kind of a person you are? You don't know the slightest meaning of Bhagavatam and you are giving a Bhagavatam class. You are very offensive. A real devotee went to your class and in ecstasy he fell down. You don't know how to tell when someone is in love for Krishna. What do you know about Bhagavatam readings? You are simply a dry scholar," said Srivas Thakur. You are the lowest of all the so-called pious men." Like this, he publicly chastised him. He said so many things to Devanand Pandit, who got very upset. Devanand Pandit was a little older and he was very offended, thinking, "How dare this Nipai Pandit speak against me like this?" But Devanand Pandit was fortunate that he was somehow related to Vakreshwar Pandit, and Vakreshwar told him, "Listen, Lord Chaitanya is actually Krishna himself. You have been blessed by him. He has talked to you directly. He criticized you directly. Take it as a blessing. You are actually blessed because Lord Chaitanya has spoken to you. You should understand that it was predicted that Supreme Lord would come in a devotee form in the Kali Yuga and give out love of Krishna freely to everyone." Because Vakreshwar Pandit started to engage him in devotional service and started preaching to him, even though he was an offender, Devanand Pandit started to think, "I have offended a devotee. Actually, I am supposed to be feeling ecstasy when I am reading Bhagavatam, but I am experiencing nothing. I am reading in a wrong way. I should learn from these Krishna consciousness devotees, from these followers of Lord Chaitanya, about the real method of studying the Bhagavatam." Then they started to study the Shastra and found out who Lord Chaitanya actually was. And Devanand Pandit realized it was true that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Lord himself. So he approached Lord Chaitanya, offered his obeisances and begged for forgiveness. But Lord Chaitanya said, "You didn't offend me, you offended Srivas. You should approach Srivas and ask him for forgiveness." Then he saw Srivas once in Navadvipa in Kuliagram, which is present-day Navadvipa town. And he fell down at his feet and prayed, "Please forgive me for my offense to you." After that, Srivas and other devotees trained him in pure devotional service and he actually became qualified to read Bhagavatam. He became an ecstatic devotee. After that, the devotees would go to his class. Even today, that is known as Aprandh Bhanjanera Pad Kuliagram, the place even the offense to a pure Vaishnav is forgiven. This is the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya. You cannot approach the Bhagavatam as material in spiritual, scholastic way. You have to simply approach it through the parampara, through the method of authorized devotional service without an offense. Then you can constantly taste the nectar. Devanand Pandit started dancing like a little child when he got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. He was dancing in the Sankirtan. People couldn't believe it. He was such a great person dancing like a child. When you get ecstatic, you don't care what people think anymore. You only care what Krishna thinks. Gopal Chapala begs for forgiveness. Gopal Chapala had also offended Srivas Thakur and had contracted leprosy soon after. Once he approached Lord Chaitanya wanting to be forgiven. He said, "You are a Patit Pavan, you are the most merciful, so please forgive me." The Lord said, "No, I will not forgive you. You will dwell in hell because you have offended a pure devotee. I will not forgive you. If you go to Srivas, if he forgives you, then I will accept you, otherwise not. Sorry, I cannot help you." This is a very rare thing. Lord Chaitanya is really the most merciful, but for Gopal Chapala, he was heavier than a lightning bolt. Later, some devotees approached Srivas and told him what happened. They said, "You should please forgive Gopal Chapala." Srivas replied, "Me, I am not a Vaishnav. I am lower than a worm. How can he make any offense to me? I am very fallen." The devotee said to him, "Listen, Srivas, you may think you are lower than a worm, but you may think you are very fallen, but Lord Chaitanya, he thinks you are a devotee, and if you don't forgive him, this Gopal Chapala will burn in hell because of you. Do you want him to suffer because of you?" No, I don't want anyone to suffer because of me. Srivas was such a devotee. So you better go and forgive him. Whether you think that you are a devotee or not, Lord Chaitanya thinks you are a devotee and he thinks that this Gopal Chapala has offended you. You should go and forgive him. So Srivas went and Gopal Chapala fell at his feet. "Please Srivas, please forgive me. I have committed an aparadh." Then Srivas said, "I will forgive you." As soon as he was forgiven, Lord Chaitanya suddenly appeared from nowhere and he embraced Gopal Chapala and he accepted him. Later he became part of his Sankirtan party. Maharaj Samudra Sen has darshan of Krishna. 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna instructed Maharaj Yudhishthir to do the Rajsuya sacrifice, and he sent the Pandavas in the 4 directions to collect wealth: south, north, east and west. Somehow Bhimsen was assigned to go to the east. From Hastinapur he went to Lucknow, Manipur, Bangladesh, Vietnam and so many other countries. But the king of this place in Navadvipa was known as Samudra Sen, and he thought, "Bhim is very dear to Lord Krishna. If I give Bhim a hard time, Krishna will have to appear and save him. Krishna won't let his devotee perish. This is the only chance I will have to get the darshan of Krishna. I will put up such a fight that Bhim will have no hope and will have to take the shelter of Krishna. Then when Krishna shows himself to me, I will surrender. I don't want to fight. I only want to fight to see Krishna." This is a kind of strange Kshatriya mentality, to see Krishna through fighting. Everyone was surrendering to Bhim, so he was thinking that Samudra Sen is known to be a devotee of Krishna, so he also will surrender. But Bhim was very surprised when he found that Samudra Sen had put up a great fight. Then Bhim started praying, "Krishna, I don't want to lose this battle. I won the Kurukshetra battle. I killed Duryodhan and all his brothers, but this king is fighting so strongly. Krishna, I need your help." So Krishna appeared in the battlefield, and then Samudra Sen saw Krishna. He offered his pranams to him. Krishna showed him his form in Vrindavan, and he also showed how in Kali Yuga he comes in this part of Navadvipa as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Samudra Sen saw Krishna, he saw Gauranga, and then he surrendered and gave the taxes and whatever was required to Bhim. Bhim was surprised how all of a sudden he changed. He said, "Krishna, I don't know how you did it, but thank you." Meeting of Gaura Nitai. One day Ram Abhiram and Lord Nityananda arrived in Navadvip. Lord Chaitanya knew that Nityananda had come, so he sent all his followers. You please go out and find Nityananda. He is my brother. He is my counterpart. He will be with us for Sankirtan. They went house to house. Hello, hello, excuse me, is Nityananda here? Until late at night they were asking, excuse me, is Nityananda here? Some of the householders became upset. You are the third person that has come today. What is this? 8:30 at night, we don't stay up so late. Go to sleep. What is wrong with you? Hare Krishnas. So they went back and Lord Chaitanya asked them, did you find Lord Nityananda? They said, no. How were you trying to find him? We were looking all over. Then Lord Chaitanya said, oh, you looked for him? You can't find him by looking for him. He has to reveal him to yourself, to you. You have to approach him with pure bhakti. Then he reveals himself. That's why you didn't find him. I can find him, but you cannot find him. So tomorrow I will go and find him. Because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, he can find Balram. But the conditioned souls cannot find the Lord. The next day, Lord Chaitanya went out with the Kirtan party chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Like this, Kirtan was going on throughout Navadvipa. At that time, Nitai and Sridham, which was Ram Babhiram, were at the house of Nandanacharya. They heard from a distance the sound of karatals, and as the Kirtan party got closer, they heard Hare Krishna chanting. It came closer and closer, and soon Lord Chaitanya entered right into the courtyard, and then the ecstatic meeting of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda took place. Gauranga, Nityananda, Gauranga, Nityananda, Haribol. They ran to each other, they embraced each other. All the devotees felt so much ecstasy at the union of Gauranga and Nityananda. They started to chant Haribol, Haribol, Nitai Gaura Haribol. In the high planets, the denizens of heaven, the angels and devas were also beating on drums and showering flowers. The lords had met in the auspicious Navadvipa Dham. Then they danced together and chanted throughout Navadvipa. The devotees were thinking, how is that? There are two Gaurangas now, one wearing yellow and another wearing blue. One is golden yellow and one is little yellow. Almost the same. That night they had the second meeting at the house of Chandrasekhar. The Lord was chanting at the house and Nityananda came there. Again they cried out, Nitai Gauranga, Gauranga, Nitai, Gauranga, Nitai. Like they embraced each other. That is, they called out each other's names. Then Lord Chaitanya just motioned to Srivas. Nobody knew what he was saying. He didn't say anything, just indicated something to Srivas. Somehow Srivas was so in tune with Lord Chaitanya that he knew exactly what Lord Chaitanya wanted. Lord Chaitanya wanted him to chant a special kirtan for the pleasure of Nityananda Prabhu. So he started to sing the glories of Krishna in Vrindavan. How Krishna was playing his flute on the side of Yamuna and how the gopis were singing the glories of Krishna. Then he started to glorify how Krishna and Balram were with the cowherd boys. As soon as Nityananda heard this, he became stunned. He couldn't move. He started crying out, Krishna, Krishna. He was just shaking and was absorbed. As soon as he heard Balram and Krishna, he was an incarnation of Balram, so it was too much for him. He was totally transported to Vrindavan just by hearing the pastimes of Krishna and Balram in Vrindavan. He collapsed on the ground. Everyone rushed around him and started fanning him. Bring him water. What happened? Lord Chaitanya said. You cannot wake him this way. He is not asleep. He is in ecstasy. He is in Samadhi. Srivas, you have to go on chanting. Everyone, you have to chant. Only by chanting he will be revived. So they went on chanting the glories of Krishna. Srivas and all the devotees were chanting. Then Lord Nityananda started moving and coming back to external consciousness by hearing these pastimes. All of a sudden, Nityananda Prabhu jumped up and called out Krishna. He couldn't sit anymore. He jumped up and started running. Where is Krishna? Running here and running there, he was madly becoming anxious to be with Krishna. He became so absorbed in the pastime that he was like a cowherd boy running and looking for Krishna. Nityananda became so absorbed that he no longer knew where he was. He didn't know he was in the house of Chandrasekhar. He thought he was running in Vrindavan looking for Krishna. But in the external world, there was a house, there were trees and other things. He practically ran into these different objects. He was not really conscious of them. He was completely in Vrindavan. So the devotees were trying to protect him from smashing into these things, and he was laughing and crying and looking for Krishna. Lord Nityananda was jumping, and on one side the devotees were trying to tackle him, hold him, but he would break loose from them and try again to go to Krishna, running this way and that. Finally, Lord Chaitanya went and held him, and he became pacified. He was crying and tears were pouring down. O Krishna, Srivas was still chanting, and Lord Chaitanya sat down and put Nityananda's head on his lap. Nityananda was in a deep mood of separation from Krishna. Then Lord Chaitanya's tears started to pour from his eyes, washing the dust from Nityananda's Prabhu's face, and the devotees were all chanting. There was a really mellow mood of separation. At this time, Chaitanya was so moved he started to cry profusely. His ecstasy became more and more. Then Lord Nityananda sat up and put Lord Chaitanya's head on his lap, and Lord Nityananda's tears were washing Lord Chaitanya. Gadadhar Prabhu was watching, thinking, what is going on here? This is something very esoteric. This is something like Ananta Shesh holding up Narayan. It was so natural the way Nityananda was holding Lord Chaitanya, how they changed positions. Gadadhar, inside his heart, he had some realization. Actually, Balram is the original form from which comes the Ananta Shesh, the transcendental snake that holds up Narayan in the spiritual ocean, the causal ocean. Like this, on the second day of Lord Nityananda coming to Lord Chaitanya, there was so much profuse ecstasy and transcendental love of Krishna that everyone was filled with this ecstasy, and that ecstasy is the basis of Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan. Everyone there doesn't know Krishna is God. They don't care whether Krishna is God. They just love Krishna. The degree of their love is completely ecstatic. When they think about Krishna's tears fall from their eyes, their hearts melt, and they just run towards Krishna. They don't care about anything else. They just want to be with Krishna. All kinds of amazing pastimes were going on, and the first and second days of the meeting of Gaura and Nitai were very, very memorable. From that time on, they were inseparable. Mother Shachi sees Gaura Nitai as Krishna Balram. One day Mother Shachi said to Lord Chaitanya that she had a dream and she was very confused. What did the dream mean? So Gauranga asked, what was your dream? She said, well, I was feeding the bhoga to our Krishna Balram deities. At that time, Nityananda and you were there as small children. Nityananda told the Krishna deity, this is not meant for you. Now it is Kali Yuga. Now Lord Gauranga is the Lord. He should get all the offerings. I don't understand what this dream means. Lord Chaitanya said, it is very difficult to understand. Maybe it means that Nityananda is hungry. Let's invite him for lunch. All right, said Shachimata, and she started to cook a big feast. Lord Chaitanya went to invite Nitai to come for lunch. At this time, Lord Nityananda was playing with some children on the side of the Ganges. He regularly swam across the Ganges. So Lord Gauranga called out, Nitai, Nitai, come back. Mother Shachi wants to prepare prasadam for you. So Nitai got dressed and he came back. Lord Chaitanya told him, one thing, please, no funny business. Nitai replied, me, I don't know funny business. You are the one that does the funny business. Like this, the two brothers were talking. What they meant is a mystery. So the offerings were made to the Krishna Balram deities, and then plates were put up. For some reason, Mother Shachi put out 3 plates. She was so ecstatic that she put out 3 plates. So then the Lord Gauranga and Nityananda sat down. She gave them She gave a mound of rice, she put the sabjis around and dal, the traditional way Lord Nityananda would take his prasad. Lord Chaitanya would take a mound of rice and put ghee on the rice and offer the Lord with tulsi, and there would be various cups of sabjis and dal on banana leaves. She was coming in and serving, and at one point she saw Gauranga and Nityananda were changed. There was Krishna and Balram, and they were eating. She looked astonished. What is going on here? She fainted. Lord Chaitanya said, "What is wrong? What is wrong?" She looked down and she saw Lord Nityananda and Gauranga. She started crying. She couldn't talk to anybody for the rest of the day. Murari Gupta's devotion. Lord Chaitanya had a devotee called Murari Gupta who was a great devotee of Sitaram. He personally had the deities of Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman. One day Lord Chaitanya told Murari Gupta, you should just worship Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the source of Ram. For the whole night Murari Gupta tried to just remember Krishna, but again and again the form of Ram was coming in his mind. He was very much attracted to Ram. He was trying to follow Lord Chaitanya's instructions, but somehow he just couldn't focus on Krishna. He had so much devotion for Ram. Okay, we will continue from here onwards next time. Hare Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.